Are you ready?
I'm always ready.
Are you ready?
Oh, yeah. Hit it.
I saw you were with them last night. I saw you were with them last night. Don't burn the bridge, burn the paper. Don't burn the bridge, burn the paper.
Yeah, that's engaging time coming soon to a venue near you. We just got one of my guitars back today, folks. I'm really excited. I'm going to play it tomorrow morning before I start work. I'm going to plug it into the amplifier in my office, and we're going to jam out for a couple minutes. Got new frets, got new strings, got new amplifier. I played it today. The action on the guitar is sweet. It's a lot closer to the fretboard, which means I don't have to work as hard and break my fingers holding down bar chords. And so I've got my 12 string, and it's got a little bit of a twang. I know why I know what the problem is, but I don't have the money to deal with it right now. And I just talked to the vendor fixing my other guitar, and they said it's another week. I'm kind of scratching my head going, it's been there for a month. My guy in Lake Zurich had it for 2 weeks, and I got it back. And there's a lot more work to be done on that one than the one that I sent up, so who knows. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. This is Your Insurance Corner at 101.5 FM, WLCB, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin. Sean may not be calling in tonight, so if you want to try to stump the master on life, health, estate planning, long-term care, Medicare, knock yourself out. The phone number is 262-394-6555. That's 262-394-6555. There is a line open, so feel free to give me a call. If I do recognize your voice because you're either a regular listener or a client, I will not blow your cover. I want to make one correction about the Charitable Lead Trust. I indicated that the trust assets are not distributed until you pass, and that was incorrect. Upon the term of the trust payout ending, so remember the Charitable Lead Trust says, I'm going to pay XYZ charity for 15 years, and then whatever is left, I said incorrectly, just sits in the trust until I pass away. The assets to the non-charitable beneficiaries are given the remainder of the asset. So it's still out of your estate. You're not connected to it. Again, it's an irrevocable trust, but it is something that is distributed even while you're still alive. So in a charitable remainder annuity trust, who gets paid first? The non-charitable beneficiary. Remainder goes to the charity. The income structure is usually a fixed annuity. Common goal is to provide income now and support the charity later, and tax benefits may be income tax deduction and or an estate tax deduction. With a charitable lead trust, who gets paid first is the charity. The remainder goes to the non-charitable beneficiaries, which are your heirs. The income structure is usually a fixed annuity or a percentage of the asset. The common goal is to support the charity now and reduce estate taxes later, and the tax benefits are gift and estate tax reduction. So just wanted to pull that out of my hat and make a correction while I'm still live on the radio. Let's see. Here are reasons why to set up a charitable remainder trust. It provides fixed income. That's the biggest one, folks. It's to provide you, especially if it's a big enough asset in your estate, it's going to provide you with at least a portion, if not your entire livable income. Probably a portion of it, because nobody's going to put that much money into an annuity and then draw income out of it unless they've got other sources of income coming in as well. I will say this, however. once you put it into most annuities that are going to generate an income, that income will continue even if the account goes to zero. That income will continue to come to you until you pass away. So if by some wild chance you drained the income out of or drained the asset based on the income that you drew, maybe because you lived to 95 or 100 years old, and then that's very possible. If that happens, there is no money going to the charity because it's run to zero, but you got the income out of it. It's also helpful to be, if you're getting an immediate charitable tax deduction by giving a present value asset to the charity, you're avoiding capital gains tax. You can donate highly appreciated assets like stocks or real estate to a charitable remainder annuity trust and sell them within the trust and avoid immediate capital gains. It helps to support the charity and leave a lasting legacy, and helps to remove assets from your taxable estate, potentially reducing estate taxes. The reasons why to set up a charitable lead trust are these. The charity receives income immediately, making this deal a deal for your priority is to fund a charitable cause during your lifetime. So you can get the attaboy and the pat on the back while money is flowing to the charity of your choice. The second reason would be to pass to wealth to heirs tax efficiently. After the charitable term ends, remaining assets go to the heirs, often with significant gift or estate tax savings, especially in a low interest rate environment. Third, it reduces gift and estate taxes. Fourth, it retain the asset growth for the company. Any growth of the trust assets during the term passes to the heirs tax-free above what was calculated in the trust inception. That's huge. And lastly, control over the charitable giving. You can specify which charities receive the income and potentially change them in the trust is structured flexibly. So those are the reasons why to set up a charitable remainder annuity trust or a charitable lead trust. Now, basics, folks. I can tell you, Sean and I are not accountants. We're not CPAs. We're not attorneys. We don't practice law. Sean has a financial background, is in the banking business, and certainly has done some of this stuff in a previous life. This is stuff that we do a lot of in my office, but I couch it, I cradle it with the first caveat is I know what I know, but making sure you get the right advice, you seek out an estate tax attorney and or a CPA who's familiar with the income tax and estate tax laws so that you get the right advice. Typically where an insurance agent comes in is the financial vehicle or the broker, for example, the financial advisor. If you have a bunch of money in an investment account, and it's not managed by an insurance agent, certainly, because we may not be licensed, but it's managed by your investment financial advisor, then the financial advisor should have a basic knowledge of how to move the money, why to move the money, etc. And for the insurance, we typically are going to provide a vehicle to help fund the trust, like an annuity, like a life insurance policy. We can certainly give quasi advices to, you should move the asset here, move it there, but again, defer to the attorneys because they may have a different pitch or different thought on it. And at the end of the day, the decisions, though, are yours. If we're going to buy an annuity, that means we're going to have to not liquidate, but move money from an investment account or an IRA or 401k from one vehicle to another. The financial advisor or insurance agent needs to know what is acceptable and how that money is going to be moved. If they don't know how to do it, then you might want to question whether or not they know what the heck they're doing. Or maybe they didn't get good information from the insurance company because the person or people you were talking to were order takers and nothing more, nothing less. But at the end of the day, there are a few steps that you want to pay attention to when you're setting up a trust. And I underscore the word, this is basic information. We're not going to get into the weeds necessarily. So there are 5 steps specifically that you want to pay attention to when you're going to set up a trust. First, determine what type of trust you need. Is it revocable? Is it a marital trust? An AB trust? Is it an irrevocable trust like a charity trust or a life insurance trust? Or is it a lifetime trust or a lifetime giving trust kind of thing? Determine the kind of trust you want. The more assets that you have, folks, the different kind of moving parts you're going to have and the more complex it's going to get. And I can tell you, I say this all the time, and broadly speaking, most people don't know how these things go. The smart people will do the homework, but they're only going to get a smidgen of the moving parts because then you got to sit down with an estate planning attorney and figure all this stuff out. If you try to do it on LegalZoom or some other online thing, knock yourself out. You might get it right, but chances are you're going to make a mistake somewhere along the way because you're going to forget to do something. So determine what kind of a trust, revocable, irrevocable, or lifetime trusts, etc. Income trust, charitable trust, etc. The second step, pick a trustee. Now, this is a person that you are going to need to trust implicitly. And I would suggest not only picking one trustee, but having a successor trustee just in case the first one either decides to back out or is no longer able to manage your affairs or your estate. So pick the trustee. Make sure you confer with him or her, especially if it's a family member, to make sure they understand what you want, what their obligations are, legal and otherwise, and make sure that you understand that the trustee is there, especially while you're alive, that they can be replaced. Make sure you check in with them periodically, and make sure you get not only a thumbs up, yeah, that's cool, I'll be your trustee, thank you, I'm honored, to when it gets to be more complicated, make sure they understand the moving parts, because if it gets too complicated, maybe that person's not the right person. Certainly the trustee has to be over 18 years old. In certain circumstances, that may be the only person that you have as your child. That may be the trustee, and that may be okay. But if you have an estate of significant value, you are likely going to have some advisors around that can help you. So if your family member or members cannot be or don't want to be or you don't trust them, then you can pick an attorney, you can pick a friend, or you can pick a trust company, and that's all they do is manage trusts. And my suspicion is I'm not fortunate enough to manage somebody's estate that has more than $25 or $30 million in it. But for those estates that are mega in the hundreds of millions of dollars or billions, I can almost assuredly tell you it's a trust company that's involved in managing that trust. But the second step here is to pick a trustee and probably a successor trustee that will manage your affairs both before and after your passing the way you want them to be done. Amongst other things, they're going to have to manage your assets, they're going to have to manage your affairs, and they're going to have to be able to answer questions. They're going to have to answer questions that come up from the beneficiaries. Third step, draft the trust arrangement. So now you've identified what kind of trust or trusts that you want. You've picked your trustees. Now it's time to draft the trust arrangement. This is especially critical to work with an estate planning attorney to identify the beneficiaries, to define the trustee powers, what the trustee is allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, how the assets are to be distributed, how the affairs are to be handled. And this is your call. There is no right or wrong. There may be some little things like you may not be able to donate your money to your dog. I know that's been done in the past, but I suspect that there's been, and I don't know this for sure, but I suspect that that's not going to go over that well because the dog certainly has a much shorter life, and more importantly, it cannot respond to your commands except sit and heel and roll over and play dead. But you can draft the trust the way you want to. Again, remember, it can be revocable. That means you can change it anytime you want. If it's irrevocable, once you do something like a charitable trust or an irrevocable life insurance trust, also called an ILIT, that once those trusts are done, with very few exceptions, they cannot be changed. Once you have identified the trust that you want, once you have identified the trustees that you want, once you have drafted your trust, now it's time to fund the trust. This is where the fun begins, folks, because that trust is only a shell of a document until you actually get the money or the asset moved into the trust. Let me start with the house or property first. And this is a big one, especially for business owners or people that have more than one or two houses. And for whatever the reason, they may want to refinance or some other thing that has to do with the title. Here's the by the way clause. So you put the house or the business inside the trust. And then let's say you have a business, you've got the business inside the trust, and an opportunity comes up and you want the company valued so that you can pull some equity out of it, if that's the way it can happen. And maybe you've got some buildings associated with the company, etc. Then you want to pull the buildings out of the trust or pull some equity out of the buildings and be able to move in a direction that helps your company grow even that much more. The problem with property is that it's titled, the trust, the title is, or the property is titled in the trust. You have to remove the property from the trust so that the title is clean, because the mortgage company won't touch it if it's inside the trust. So it has to be removed, set outside the trust. Now, unfortunately, it may be subject to probate and a bunch of other things. So don't die. Don't die. And then once the financial arrangements are done with whatever you're doing for the reasons you pulled the property out of the trust, then the property has to be put back in the trust again. This is a common thing if you own a house or a couple of houses. The houses are in the trust. Maybe one house is in your name, one house is in your wife's name, and you're pulling out one of the houses. The house has to be removed from the trust, again, to clean title. The mortgage company will then do whatever they're going to do to refinance the property. Once the refinance is done, then you advise the title company that it's going back in the trust. The lawyer takes care of that for you. This is not for the faint of heart, folks. I don't think it's that expensive, but it's a pain in the neck. So just be aware of that. I've heard some attorneys say sometimes leaving the property outside of the trust is a little easier because at least it gives the court the allowance of authority over closing up the estate. But then you have to deal with probate, and like I said, the bigger the estate, the more complicated it's going to be. So I'm not going to say a will is good or bad. It is what it is. But if you want to be able to engage the estate after the decedent passes away, the trust is the way to go. If you are okay with probate because there's only a small bit of stuff that's in the estate, then it is what it is. Just be prepared for paying the attorneys the necessary estate probate costs to probate and change the title of the property. So you funded the trust, and now you have to sign it. By the way, kinds of things that you're going to fund the trust. You're going to transfer assets. I mentioned property, real estate, life insurance, financial accounts like investment accounts, bank accounts. All of these things typically do have beneficiaries, but if you've moved them into the estate, it is highly likely that the estate planning attorney, has changed the beneficiary from Johnny Lunchbucket to the estate of William D. Miksch. So this is why it's really critical to make sure you get good, sound legal counsel. It's worth every penny. So again, life insurance, why would you put life insurance inside of a trust? For taking advantage of the estate tax exemption. Right now, again, it's $13.5 million roughly for us, a single person, $27 million roughly for a couple. So if it's a big enough life insurance policy, maybe you want it in there to defer estate taxes. Keep in mind that the beneficiary is the trust, and the trust is going to dictate what's going to happen. On the other hand, if the life insurance policy stays outside of the trust, it's still in your estate. It's not inside the trust. And the benefactors listed on the life insurance policy or annuity policy trump what's ever in the will or trust. It supersedes the will or trust, period, full stop. Doesn't matter if you're going to list all 20 family members in the trust. If you only designated one person in the life insurance policy and they're still alive, that one person is going to be the benefactor of that life insurance or annuity policy or investment account or bank account. And then finally, the last step in setting up a trust. And this is a big one, folks, because I know some people that want to keep things quiet with their family members or benefactors of their estate because they don't want to get people upset or angry or whatever. But from what I'm told in talking with estate planning attorneys, it's their view, it's never a good idea to do this in a box or in a bubble without communicating with the people who are ultimately going to be beneficiaries of the asset, particularly if you've got large estate. So communicate with your beneficiaries, make sure they understand where they are in the food chain, what they can expect to happen when you pass. Planning by surprise does not work. Planning by surprise does not work. Oh, I'm going to surprise them when I die. So-and-so is going to get this money. Well, yep, and there can be some very hard feelings of other extended family members if they weren't brought into the picture, and there's no way you can communicate with them once it's done. Once you pass, whatever is in there, and if they're finding out for the first time, which happens a lot, and I'm not telling you this is not a secret, it happens a lot, you just make sure they understand what they're going to get and what they're not going to get. And sometimes they may bring up situations where like, oh, that's a good idea, maybe I'll go back and switch that. So do it while you're alive rather than after the fact. So the 5 steps: determine what kind of a trust you want. Pick the right trustee, somebody you trust. Draft the trust. Work with an estate planning attorney. Fund the trust of the assets that you want inside the trust, either to help defer estate taxes and or income taxes. Again, depends on the trust you want to do. Make sure you execute it. And this is a critical thing here, folks, too. You can't execute it by yourself. it still has to be under the sound mind and body of so-and-so. So it has to be witnessed. And so, for example, it might say, the revocable living trust of William D. Miksch dated June 2nd of 2025. That's usually how it's going to be written. Or it might say, the revocable trust of William D. and Sally J. Miksch, dated June 2nd, 2025. That is the legitimate way to do a revocable trust. There are other titles in which it will be irrevocable or charitable trust, etc. That title is critical. So putting in the assets in the right kind of a trust is critical. And again, finally, make sure you communicate with your beneficiaries. Sometimes it can be a difficult discussion because of whatever you're going through, whatever hard feelings you might have, whatever annoyances you had during the life of yourself and the beneficiaries that are going to be benefactors to your estate. Sometimes those decisions may be complicated. If the beneficiaries don't want to have a conversation with you, that's their problem, not yours. So make sure you engage whoever you want to engage in the process of this, and make sure you're doing it on a level that is being done consistently and revisited every now and then, so that the trust is doing exactly what you want the trust or will or your estate to do, so that there are no surprises at the end. With that, we're coming to the end of the show. It is 6:58 according to my cell phone. This is your Insurance Corner. The one thing I will say, folks, especially given the last week of having to go to a couple of funerals and losing two family members who I dearly loved and appreciated. Actually, one's a family member, one's a client, but I knew him for a long time. Put your petty differences aside. Put your petty differences aside. Put your ego to the side. You don't necessarily have to forget what happened, but forgive. You may find out that the silence that you both had was not worth it. Because once you go, there's no way to have that conversation anymore. So if you've got some problems and differences, then air them out. And if you can air them out while you're alive and reconcile, again, you don't have to forget what happened, but forgive. And with that, my name is Bill Miksch. I'm president of WDMA Financial Group in Grayslake, Illinois. This is your Insurance Corner at 101.5 FM WLCB, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin. Have a great night, everybody, a great week, and we'll see you next week.